Oh, yeah, baby. We are back. Let's get it.
Woo.
We got a great guest today. We're going to be talking about her best-selling book, her journey through this book, and how one interaction that we had led to a life-changing experience. So please welcome to the virtual stage of the Big Idea to Bestseller podcast, best-selling author of the book, It Gets to Be Easy If You Let It, Julia Henning. What's going on?
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be here and honored. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I want to start with this. Okay.
hmm
You have a book. It's titled It Gets to Be Easy If You Let It. Where did that come from? Where did the idea of writing this book like blossom?
well, I was in the depths of the Costa Rican jungle. Let's just start there. And I was actually there's two versions of this story, so I'll give you kind of both the PC and the kind of unedited version. The truth is that I was literally sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony, my first time ever drinking the jungle brew, and I was shown this vision that I was going to write a book, and this title was given to me by way of this ancient spiritual force, whatever you choose to believe in. That's how it came to me. And the spirit of ayahuasca said to me, it gets to be easy if you let it. And for the next year, I unraveled this mystery and this puzzle, so to speak, of what the heck this meant and when this was going to happen and how. And the lesson kind of just continued to follow me. Like, life gets to be easy, but you have to let it be easy. It's this continuous lesson. And over the course of a year, I started to kind of unravel what this sentiment meant and how it applied to me and what tools, resources, and experience I had to basically explain and tell the story of what that meant. And then by fate, I had a connection made. My friend and I were sitting at a bar about a year ago, and I was told there's a guy who wrote a book about how to write a book. And I thought, okay, cool. I guess I'll read that. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't read it at the time. And about 5 or 6 months later, I get an email from my good friend Jordana. She goes, I was connected with this guy we were talking about. His name is Jake. He wrote this book we were talking about, and I told him about you. So I get an email. I'm connected to you, and I told you up front, hey, I just got back from an ayahuasca experience. This is the truth of the story. This is what I want to do. And it sort of demanded to be written. I mean, it gets to be easy if you let it sort of became the touchstone of the whole brand that I was sort of developing and arriving at. And when I spoke to you, I came to the seminar and I had one idea for what this book was going to be and went that path. And as soon as I started writing, it almost as if I'd forgotten it. One day I'm writing and I'm going, this isn't the book. This isn't what I'm supposed to be writing. It gets to be easy if you let it. Came back into my consciousness and I said, I'm sorry, you guys, I have to change directions. This is the book. And here we are, what, like 7 months later, It Gets to Be Easy is in the world now. So that's the real story.
I love that. I love that. And an ayahuasca journey in the Costa Rican jungle leads to a best-selling book in less than a year. I mean, that's like a great tagline right
It's
there.
very on brand. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I'm the woo-woo life coach of the world right now. Like it's nobody blinks when I tell them that this is how this came to be. Everyone's like, of course.
I
So yeah,
love it.
that's the truth. Thanks.
So let's dig into this, okay? Because there were a couple things in the beginning of your journey that were very interesting. The changing of
hmm
the book, the length of which you waited to actually create this thing. So
hmm
what were some of the hesitations of you embarking on this book journey, and how did you overcome them?
Mm. In the very beginning, I mean, before you and I had even connected, the idea of publishing, writing, I mean, the whole idea of birthing a book was almost unfathomable. You if you've never done something, you think, I have no idea where to even start. And even though I'm a writer by nature, by trade, like I just had never done that. So it was just this idea of how do I even take the first step? And I think with anything, with anybody, that first step is the hardest one to take. And it can feel so overwhelming that you just don't ever start doing anything. It lives as this idea.
Yeah.
So when I was connected with you and Bestseller, it was just, oh, there's a resource, there's a portal, there's a conduit to kind of help and instruct me where to start. And in the beginning, when we started working together, it was just sort of accepting that now that I had the resources, I had to do what I said I was going to do. I mean, it was the
Mhm.
challenge of getting out of idea and into action. And for me, it was just, why am I doing this? I mean, I had to continually go back to the why of, I want to see if I'm capable of writing a book. Can I just do it, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the accolades? Can I write a book? And how will I feel when I hold that book in my hands? And so that challenge of, oh, I don't feel inspired, I don't know what I'm doing, I let myself be a beginner. I came into the program, I came into this idea saying, I don't know what I'm doing, rather than, in a lot of ways, we all, I think, move through the world kind of hoping to come across as an expert before we've even figured out how to do the first step. And in
Mm,
this case, I let myself be a beginner, and I let it be easy by acknowledging that it was a hard thing to do. And in doing so, I accepted help. I accepted the process. I accepted
yeah.
every step as it needed to happen. And it got to be easy.
Yeah, I love the meta here of how your process was what your truth is, right? Like that's a beautiful thing. Talk to me a little bit about the book process, right? Once you let it, right? And I remember it was, you were at our live event and
Mm-hmm.
towards the end it was emotional for you, right? There was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of emotions because you had felt this thing that you knew you needed to do, but you were hesitant because it still was really big and then you decided I'm going to let it be easy. And then you joined the experience, right? You joined our
Mm-hmm.
Elevate program and you got to work with our team. Talk to me a little bit about what your process was like because you went from it's not possible, it's unfathomable to it's easy if you let it, right? So what was the process like for you and were there any milestones or aha moments were in the process that you were like, hell yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give you the major first credit. Coming to the seminar and the feeling of the room that I was in that day. I mean, there was like what, like 11 or 12 of us. We had kind of joked that it was a very spiritual, sort of holistic group of people at the seminar. We're all talking about these ideas we have for books, and you're thinking, okay, I've lived with this idea by myself for a while now, but now I'm getting this reinforcement from these group of people that I've never met saying, this is a good idea. I want to know more about this. I want to read this. That was sort of the first indication that this was possible, that this was something worth doing. Then I mean, master like cheerleader champion of ideas to creation to like action. It was just, you made it feel possible. I mean, you had gone through the experience, and just to be in the room and interact with somebody who was once in my position. I'm somebody that, like, once I see it in front of me, I know how to mirror it. I can mock it. I used to be an actor. So if you give me an example of something to perform or to produce, I can do that. If you've never had that example, again, you're sort of like, I just have no idea where to start. So sitting in the room was the first experience where I had the aha of like, this is not only possible, you guys are already giving us structure and tools and motivation and inspiration to get this idea out of my head and onto paper into the world. From that, I mean, I was so emotional because I recognized that doing this, saying yes to writing a book, was going to change my life. I knew it. You
Mm,
had reinforced that. I knew it was going to change who I was as a person, because I was going to be sitting with this idea in this process for months. This wasn't going to be something quick. It wasn't going to be a one-off. This was going to be something that was going to consume my time, my energy, my personality, all of me. To make that commitment to anything, I mean, is a huge choice. And that was emotional. I was basically deciding to commit the rest of my year to this idea. And I think that in that moment, that process was, am I ready to change? Am I ready to up level? Am I ready to let life finally be easy as I'm about to write it for other people? So I really was the first test subject. I was coaching this sentiment as a life coach for years, but I was suddenly now having to embody this idea and this sentiment in a way that I never had before, with a venture that not only meant so much to me on a personal level, but I knew was going to affect and have a ripple effect far beyond me. That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of
mm,
impact to hold at the very beginning of saying yes to something. So once I said yes and we started the process, I mean, you guys really did a great job of laying out the structure. Let's start with an outline. Let's work with a coach. Stay accountable to maybe a schedule. At this benchmark, you guys are going to have this done. I mean, you guys had such a rich team of support guiding me through each milestone. But I would say off the bat, like getting the outline done, that was a huge moment of being like, okay, I'm done. I've done the outline, thinking, oh, what an easy thing that was not easy at all. Having to take all your ideas and go, wait, okay, how many chapters are there? Wait, does this fit here? That was crazy because you think you have an idea of how this is going to be presented, and then you're challenged with, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense here anymore, or that's not useful anymore. And I remember I was in northern Michigan at my lake house with my family, and I was sitting writing up in a room looking at the lake, and I was thinking, wow, I'm really having this moment of as an author. I'm up at a cottage by the lakefront. I'm having a tea. I'm really writing. And then I looked at the page and I went, I hate everything I've written. This is terrible. Like, what
Yeah.
am I talking about?
Yeah.
And I called my coach, Anastasia, that you guys so beautifully provided. And I remember just thinking, I'm a fraud. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I can't write this book. And I give my coach a lot of credit. Anastasia was the first to say to me, she's like, you are being so hard on yourself. You are making it so much harder. And in that moment, for me and my book specifically, I realized, okay, if it gets to be easy from here on out, write what is truly inside of you. Don't try to make it good. Don't try to make it perfect. Don't try to appeal to anyone other than the book you want to have in the world. And from then on out, the writing process became one of ease. I had an outline, I had the structure, I gave myself plenty of time on that. And that unlocked the freedom to just write. And when I started writing, I was saying things that I was questioning. I was saying things I was like, is this who I really am? And then looking at this being like, I'm talking about Taylor Swift in a published manuscript. Is this really going to be the thing you put into the world? And I thought, well, I guess the world deserves to know I'm a Swiftie. And you know what? I can attest success to what she's shown us. And that's real.
Yeah.
And I would say that another huge milestone was I was in like the last like 2 months of the writing process, and we were trying to come up with the title, the whole title. We had It Gets to Be Easy. I knew It Gets to Be Easy if you let it, because there was this caveat. It Gets to Be Easy is this sort of like, dream-like sort of compelling sentiment. But if you let it had this sort of wink to it. There's something more. You have to do the work. And to let it be easy, you actually have to endure the hardship of what life really is. There's a sort of contradiction in and of itself to this book. But I was sitting on an airplane. I don't even remember where I was going at this point. And I remember I was sending Anastasia, my coach, all these ideas of the sort of subtitle because, she wasn't doing any of the writing for me, but she was kind of saying, that's not it. And I was sort of saying, okay, thank you.
Right.
And I just remember sitting there in the aisle seat. Someone had knocked me with the drink cart. And I swear it was like fate. It knocked me awake. And I just had this moment where the title came through, and it was The Art of Authenticity and Other Life Lessons We Skipped. And that was the big aha moment for me, to realize that I was writing the manual that I wished I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
And that was the sentiment that you and I had talked about in that seminar. I mean, that was the core truth from the beginning of wanting to write a book, is I want the skills for living guide that I didn't have when I was younger to empower and instruct with a little bit of love how to be yourself, how to navigate life, how to navigate the world in a sense, no matter where you are, no matter where you come from. And I literally sat on that plane, and I'm pretty sure I said out loud, I was like, oh, this is it. And the person like next to me kind of looked at me, and I would just remember being like, they're thinking like, what the heck? And I'm thinking like, yeah, it happened. We have it. And I remember from then on out, the process was just trust that is what is coming through is what wants to come through. And let that part, like, let it be easy. And then from then on out, I just followed the steps and made sure I promptly responded to all the emails. And then I just trusted my gut. I mean, it's the simple answer. I trusted my gut along the way. And when I felt like I didn't know what I was doing or that it was hard, I dissected that as much as I could without getting too far gone in the doubt and the worry. And again, I write about that in the book. I'm writing about what's happening to me, writing the book in the book. It became this meta experience. And so, yeah, I would say that, and then holding the book for the first time was the huge, I mean, that was it was like midnight after an event and I was sitting with my partner. It wasn't this big moment. It was just looking at him and myself and being like, I'm holding this thing. And I mean, God, this is so, I've wondered if I should say it like this. So I'm going to just own myself and do it. I've never given birth. I've never had a kid, but I can only imagine the feeling. Nobody's around. You're in that room with your loved ones. This thing happens. It's sort of miraculous, but it's just this crazy moment. You forget about the pain. You forget about the process. You forget about everything you went through. Because in that moment, you're holding this thing and you're like, this is such a labor of love. This is mine. And this is going to outlive me. I've
Mm.
left something on this earth. And I mean, that in and of itself was a moment where I was like, this was all worth it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I'll never forget the first time I got my first book. It's an unparalleled feeling that triggers you at like your core. Like
Yeah.
there are moments in life that, hit hard, right?
Mhm.
When something happens, it doesn't go your way. When something happens and it does go your way, when things happen to the people that you love, good and bad, like you get
Mhm.
hit and you know that these are pivotal things. But when you get to hold your book for the first time, like it is that feeling that your life will never be the same. It is that
Mhm.
feeling of like, I just did the hardest thing that I ever thought I was going to do. Because for so many people, writing a book feels impossible, in your words,
Yeah.
unfathomable.
Yeah.
And there you are, months later, book's done, books in hand. You're feeling that, you have that special moment, and that's beautiful. Now, before we get into like the launch and talking about that and
Mhm.
like where we're gonna go with this book, what I want to do is I kind of want to dig into some of these lessons, right? The
Mhm.
art of authenticity and the lessons that we skipped. What are some of the lessons that you talk about in the book? What are some of the things that we're gonna learn by reading the book? And how do we allow them to be easy when they're not easy in the beginning?
Great question. The book sort of opens up with defining the difference between ease and easy. I chose to title the book It Gets to Be Easy because easy is sort of the buzzword that we're all compelled by as humans. Nobody wants things to be harder, and we don't want to struggle and suffer, but that inherently is the human condition. With my psychology background, I really wanted to be mindful of how I could talk about some of these denser concepts in a
Yep.
way that felt tangible and digestible. And so, right off the bat, I talk about ease is sort of synonymous with alignment and authenticity. We feel a sense of ease. We don't
Mm,
necessarily know what it feels like when something is like easy. We feel ease. So, life gets to be easy is this sort of general concept. And the feeling of ease is what we're after. And so, I'm exploring intentionality as the foundation of your lifestyle, sharing ways that people can align their actions with their authentic desires. And I do that with different tools like the Clarity Compass, chapter 7, where we talk about what are your core 5 values. We think we embody everything, we're so multidimensional. Humans really only have the capacity to hold 5 core values at a time.
mm,
And when you look at every sector of your life, let's say career, love, health, hobbies, if one of those values is lesser than or missing from those life sectors, that's the life sector you're probably struggling in the most, or you're
mm,
probably feeling pressure in, or you're thinking, oh, I never have a good relationship. Oh, I'm not making enough money. Okay, well, let's say you love, you value freedom, self-discovery, truth, loyalty, and community. If community is lacking in your career, well, no wonder you're not fully fulfilled. You're not in ease. You're not in the path of alignment. So I talk about ways to identify, okay, what is your body telling you? What are the cues of anxiety, of depression, of overwhelm? We talk about like physical cues. We talk about mental cues, what's going on? How do you talk to people? How are you reacting to things? We talk about spiritual cues. Are you feeling inspired? What is motivating you? What is drawing that inner essence out? On top of that, I also talk about things like, um, you know, ease versus hustle,
mm.
insights about how choosing alignment over burnout is going to basically reframe your life as an empowered choice
Yeah.
rather than avoiding effort. I'm very quick in the beginning to say, let's befriend our blocks. And we talk to our blocks, the things you're like, God, I'm a procrastinator. Okay, talk to your procrastination, see what it has to say to you. People think
Mm,
I sound like a loony when I say, like, talk to your sadness and see what it says. But if you literally say, like, what do you need from me? Why are you here? It will say something back to you. So those blocks, when we befriend them, they become a resource and a tool for us to go, okay, I'm putting in the effort. And by doing so, I'm using this as a resource rather than seeing this as something to overcome or something to achieve.
Mm,
And if we're constantly actually, you know, emphasizing the value of collaboration with ourselves, the personal growth ripples because we're not just saying, okay, just like going to the gym, I'm going to go work out, do 10 reps, and I will have worked out today and I'll feel better. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily get to the root of like, what are you doing when you're not at the gym? How do you feel about yourself? Is that changing the way that you interact with,
yeah.
other people? We need to get to the root of it. And the root is authenticity. People tell you your whole life, just be yourself. Nobody teaches you how to be yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of us, we don't figure that out until a little bit later in life. And so the book aims to sort of
That's
equip you
good.
with frameworks and mental
Mm,
questions to really evoke and inspire, well, who am I and what do I stand
yeah.
for? And if you can align yourself with your authenticity in everything you do, I have found, and the book seems to prove, that it tends to get easier, but you
Yeah.
have to let it.
That's good. It's like you built the tactical guide to to living a life of like true spirituality. It's like you've done a great job of blending what a lot of people see as contradictory things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've put it all together. And I mean, I love the ease versus easy. I like the befriend the blocks. I like the clarity compass. Big fan of naming some of these things or having
Oh,
some things that become memorable. And there was something that you were talking about in there that I think is really powerful. When you're talking about the blocks, right? And you're talking about talking to yourself. And then you even said one step further is like you eventually learn these lessons later in life.
mm-hmm.
And I was thinking how true that is because oftentimes some of these difficult things or the inward reflection or the deeper work doesn't happen for individuals until it
Mm-hmm.
needs to happen. Often triggered by a life event, often triggered by an awakening of some capacity, often triggered by another human being causing something or creating something inside you that makes you question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now this book is that ability, that framework for people to go so that they can have all this knowledge and information, but also be incredibly, incredibly at ease with the process and their life and their future. So I love what you did there. I think it's a great job of blending everything.
Speaking of that, just really quickly, I mean, I'm also a huge fan of naming something. If I know the name of it, I understand its essence. So I'll
Yeah.
often like go kind of not from a branding or marketing standpoint, but just what is the spirit of this thing? And yes, like we kind of there's the woo-woo-ness in the book and the spirituality, but really it's also when I was thinking of like who is this book for? I say it in the beginning. I'm like, this is the kind of life lessons I wish we were taught in school, along
Yeah.
with like how to do your taxes and don't put like aluminum foil in the microwave. Like these are just things that like we just don't, you maybe pick it up along the way, but like, am I using the Pythagorean theorem? Like, no, I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not. But it was actually Chicken Soup for the Soul, that series that really inspired me to think like
Yeah.
this is a book that even though it's professionally written, it's got the masters in psychology on the title, you could give this to like a preteen or a teenager right at that pivotal point when they're starting to question, who am I and what do I want and what do I believe in, just to sort of like you said, activate rather than trigger, activate this part of yourself that can move through life empowered versus it being this you know this effort that we're sort of
Yeah.
all hustling and achieving and accomplishing. And I think that in the end, if you have these bite-sized lessons in your head that you can sort of say, okay, my clarity compass, okay, am I alignment with that right now? It just becomes second nature, you know?
Totally. Totally. You are writing this book.
Mm-hmm.
You're talked about these milestones. You hold the book with your partner for the first time. The emotions
Mm-hmm.
are going. Let's talk about launch. What
Mm-hmm.
what did you do for launch? How did it feel when you saw your book top the charts? Like Tell us a little bit about that wild ride and that experience.
That was one of the most exhilarating experiences I've ever had. And I've had a couple of those. I knew about a month and a half out from the launch to basically enlist some help. I decided I'm not going to do this by myself. So I started working with a new like social media consultant. I was like, this is what I want to put into the world. And I remember talking to you and being like, what do we do? You know, how do you talk about this? And so I said, I had a framework, I had an idea. I said, I just want to show up. I just want to look pretty. I want to get on camera. I want to talk about it. You do the rest. So I let it be easy by basically saying, this is what needs to be in the world for people to have an idea of like what messages I'm putting out there, my coaching,
Yep.
the book, the sentiment. That was a social media aspect of it. And that started to gain a lot of attention. We started seeing huge number spikes in engagement and people asking about the
Let,
book.
let me ask you a quick question here on that, because
Yeah.
I think this is something that a lot of people don't they underestimate or they don't even realize. The minute you started talking about your book, your engagement went through the roof.
Everything changed.
Everything changed. That is why books are different than any other marketing tactic or strategy that you can use. If you do a webinar, no one's going to do that. If say you're running ads, no one's going to do that. Even if you start a new business, you get a lot of traction, but it's different type of traction. When you say and talk about your books coming out, everything, the narrative shifts, the way you view yourself shifts, the way people view you. So I really wanted to accentuate that point. I think that's really powerful. All right, back to you. You're doing this. You're letting it be easy. Keep going.
Well, and it's so good. I'm glad you point that out because, you know, so many people had known what I was doing and I want to say praise, but like I had gotten a lot of accolades about being an entrepreneur, being successful at a certain age. And so then suddenly people are like, whoa, like you're writing a book and it's coming out in like 3 months. Cause I didn't really talk about it in the process of it, mostly because I didn't really know how to balance talking about it and doing it at the same
Yeah.
time. And so just to start seeing people come out of the woodwork and ask me about it and be able to talk about it, it became something. I remember you saying you became the expert at something. People were now looking at you as you are the expert at this thing if you were able to write a book about it and to put it into the world with confidence. So that completely changed the way I decided to start talking about the book. Then we had this whole launch campaign going on behind the scenes where, you know, we had a launch team where you're in calling upon everyone you know, everyone you love, everyone you've worked with, basically saying, please talk about the book, buy the book, you know, leave a review, anything that you can do to like keep that visibility alive on Amazon. That was really freaking hard. There was a lot of humility that had to go into that process and saying, I'm worth it. This is worth it. Please, can you decide it's worth it too and do something about it? And I will say this about the launch. Bless everyone in their good spirits, but damn, do they not read emails? I had so many people, I won't say doing the wrong thing because of course every action helped, but there was a lot of missteps in the launch with my dear loved ones where I was just sort of like, wow, you guys, I have made this as foolproof as possible. Why are you not just doing this, this, and this? And God bless everybody because I was so thankful. But that was a fun part and a lot of stress leading up to launch day where I was like, oh my God, everyone's pre-ordering the book. What are we going to do? Like, we're not seeing the numbers on the launch day. So that was another thing. But once I did all the work, and mind you, I was up until, 2:00 in the morning the week before, getting not just everything with the launch up and ready to go, but I was building out and rebranding my entire business, my entire coaching service, my website, my brand. Everything was up leveling with the book. And I won't say crazy, I was very ambitious to do what I did with the book. And a lot of people that I was working with were like, I can't believe you decided to do this at this moment. Because I had this instinct almost about a month before the book was launched, everything needs to change. We're going to up level everything. And when I put my mind to something, I talk about it in the book, put your money where your mouth is. The secret of self-investment, I write in this in chapter 3, is acceptance. I accepted that all of these things needed to change. And so they did. And so I was up, I missed Thanksgiving with my family to sit at home on my computer with buttered noodles, working on my launch. And I will never forget that. That was a huge milestone to say, this matters so much to me that I'm going to change my life for it. And I apologize to every person who got an email from me that week, probably thinking I was doing something behind the scenes and neurotic, but I was like, I'm just not going to miss a beat and make sure everything is ready to go. And on launch day, I remember Everything was ready. Everything, all the resources were uploaded because I went the extra mile. If you open up my book, the first page is a QR code that leads to a private page where you can download free resources that pair with sections of the book. I made it an immersive experience. So we had to make sure all those resources were up and ready to go. And when all the audio files crashed 7 days before, I stayed up and made sure that that was all done. And so there was just so much energy around there's a deadline. We're going to see it hit and I'm going to do this. And on the day of launch, December 3rd, I texted Mikey, who was helping me with all my publishing. And I said, listen, I don't want to be at the computer today. Please, can you be my eyes and ears? I'll have my phone with me and just let me know as things happen. And I went to the forest with my partner and I said, I just want to put my phone away for a couple hours. I need to be present. I need to just embrace this. I didn't have any service. I didn't know anything that was going on. I was like getting all these text messages and finally my phone went dead once we hit a certain altitude. And we come back out of the forest and I'm just thinking like, okay, I'm grounded. I took some time for me. I'm centered. And as soon as I opened up my phone, it was like, whoa. I mean, it was like cinematic. How many messages, DMs, things were coming through, the beeps, the beeps, the beeps. And I'm just seeing you're number one in journaling. You're number one in creativity. You're number one in inner child self-development. You're number one in personal development and spirituality. And I'm thinking, these are the categories that I have been a fan of and subscribing to my entire life. These were the things that shaped me. These are the books that I bought from. I mean, and I'm thinking, oh my God, my book is number one right now in these categories. I'm hearing from everyone I know how excited they are, what they can do. And I'm sitting there just thinking, okay, well, it's like 1 p.m. What else am I going to do today? So I go and I'm pampering myself. I'm getting my nails done, my hair done. I'm like, I'm going to go get a massage, right? It's like 4 p.m. I'm sitting at the masseuse. I'm by myself at this point. And I'm kind of actually thinking, you know what? The bestseller status might not happen today. And I remember thinking, hearing from Mikey and going, some people don't hit it on launch day and that's okay. And I'm thinking, okay, it's just not going to be my story. That's okay. I get onto the damn masseuse table. My phone is sitting next to my head because I said, I'm sorry, I need my phone with me today. And it beeps and I look and I'm by myself and I see you've hit #1 bestseller from you guys and from my mom congratulating me at the exact same moment. And I yelped. Cool. I mean, it was like I'm in the middle of like this quiet room and like the guy looks at me. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't even explain to you what just happened. But I want to just say to that, I was by myself in a mundane moment, in a mundane setting. And I got this screenshotted, text message. And I just remember thinking, it's as simple as this.
Yeah.
I wasn't with a huge group of people. It wasn't this big alarm. It was just in this quiet moment in the middle of the day after all this work. It was just one message. And from there, I was like, oh, everything's going to change now. Yeah. And literally everything changed like very quickly right after that. And that night I went to dinner. I ate a big bowl of pasta. I had a cocktail and I said, you know what? You've earned it. You have earned it. And I remember I was in a photo booth with my friends and they handed me the book and they said, you need to sit in the photo booth alone and take a photo. And I did. And to have that photo from that night was just, I mean, it was crazy. It was just seeing everybody come and supporting you and rallying around you. And then the next day was a normal day. It was back to work. And I think that that's a really important part of it, that it was so much work and so much effort. And then the moment it happened, it got to be easy. And then I actually really had to give myself a lot of permission after the launch to just rest and enjoy it and be in it and let the launch and the success be easy. And I'll say right now, I mean, it was one of the coolest moments I've ever experienced.
Awesome.
And I'm really grateful for that.
Awesome. We're going to have to get you back on to talk about what's changed, right? Because right now you're still in it, you're still living it, but you feel the shift. You felt the shift a month and a half, you upload everything, you launch it, you felt the shift. Like now we get to see what the benefits are beyond what they've already been. I mean, everything you've already said, it's changed your life, but now we get to see what comes next. And that's something that I'm really excited for you and excited to guide you on. So how do we get a copy of your book? Where do we go? How do we follow you? How do we work with you? Tell us where we can get all that stuff.
The book is available right now on Amazon. There is a hardcover, a soft cover, and an ebook. It's also available barnesandnoble.com. You can also access it on my website, iamjuliahenning.com. You can also get it on my Instagram at iamjuliahenning. Instagram's the best way to connect. That's where I'm giving a lot of
Cool.
life coaching tips and behind the scenes. My website right now is a little under construction. We're doing a nice new little launch at the end of the year, but that's a really immersive way to see what other resources I'm offering, coaching services, that ways you can
Amazing.
work with me, events. But yeah, get the book on Amazon and leave a review. Let me know what you think. DM me. I want to hear about it. And, one of the things I also say is really invest in the resources that pair with the book. I think that's the most hands-on way to really experience and embody the lessons if it gets to be easy. And then
Awesome.
hit me up for coaching.
I love it. I love it. Well, Julia, thank you for coming on the show. I'm very proud of you and I'm very excited for you. This is just the beginning. You've let it be easy. Now let's enjoy all that's to come. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm super honored.
Of course. And for everyone that just listened, obviously, task number one, go grab yourself a copy of It Gets to Be Easy If You Let It by Julia Henning. And here is my challenge to you. All right. We talked about something earlier, befriending the blocks. And as a guy who's very tactically minded and analytically sound and less of the woo-woo spiritual making, befriending the blocks really, like, that was like one of those cool things. So my challenge to you guys is, what is a block that you've had, or what is a block that you want to overcome in this new year, and befriend it, talk to it. And if you need advice on how to do that, get the book, but just have a conversation with that feeling, that block, and see where it goes. You might love it, you might hate it, but I want you to try it. That's what we got for you today. I'll see you on the next one.